Hey, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a simple Dialogflow project and how to deploy it. Let's first start by going through the project we are going to create.
Hey Google, talk to my comedian buddy.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm a little bored. Can you make me laugh?
Sure, I know knock knock jokes, so when I say knock knock, you have to say who is it or who is there. Then I will say a name or phrase like Cash or Cow says, to which you have to reply Cash who or Cow says who. Are you ready for a knock knock joke?
Yeah, sure.
Knock knock.
Who is there?
Isabel.
Isabel who?
Isabel working? I had to knock.
Alright, let's see how we can create an agent like this and how we can deploy it. Ready?
I thought so. Let's start by creating an agent. And if you wonder what an agent is, let me briefly explain it. An agent is like a robot which would communicate with your user, and the purpose of this agent is to understand the language of the user and to respond to every input accordingly. Now for more, we can review the description provided here by Dialogflow. It's a little bit more technical, but I highly recommend that you go through it. Now with that, let's log in. Let's go to www.dialogflow.com and then let's log in. Go to console and sign in with a Google account. Okay, now we are ready to proceed to the next step. Let's create an agent. I'm going to call mine my knock knock agent. No spaces. I click on create. As soon as your agent is saved, this page would show up where we can create intents. Before we create an intent, let me briefly explain what an intent is. An intent is a state or what the system understands from a user's input and knows how it has to respond to it. So, this state or understanding of the input is called an intent. Now for more, we can refer to the description provided below by Dialogflow, and the URL to this page is dialogflow.com/docs/intents. Alright, to create an intent, let's click on Create Intent here, and now we can create our first intent. Let's call it Tell Me a Joke intent, no spaces, I'm using underline, and let's skip events, context, and go directly to training phrases. We will cover context and events later. Alright, let's add some training phrases. Let's say, I am bored, make me laugh, tell me a knock knock joke, say something funny, how about something funny, tell me a joke, I'm bored, tell me a joke. Now if you wonder what training phrases are, a training phrase is a mechanism that Dialogflow uses to map every user input to a state in the conversation. Now if you say something to Dialogflow, Dialogflow tries to understand it, and that understanding would take the agent to a new state. So for Dialogflow to understand how to do this mapping from an input to a state, you can provide some phrases, some sample training phrases to Dialogflow, and under the hood, Dialogflow uses machine learning, and it would look at all of these samples to learn how to do this mapping. The more training phrases you provide, the better and the better Dialogflow would be able to map the inputs to particular intents. Now let's go to execute and respond to user. Now let's add a response. Now we have to explain how the joke is going to work. This is important because we want to make sure that this agent aligns and complies to Dialogflow policies. Now, let me just start by typing something like, sure, I know quite a few knock-knock jokes. The way it works is that I would say knock, knock, and in response you have to say who is there, or who is it. Now let's add the commas because we want to make it sound more real. Then I will say a name or phrase like cash or cow says, then you have to say cash who or cow says who. Are you ready for a knock-knock joke? Now let's add another response so we can alternate. Okay, I know knock-knock jokes. So when I say knock-knock, you have to say who is it, or who is there, and I will say a name or phrase like cash or cow says, to which you have to reply cash who or cow says who. Are you ready for a knock-knock joke? Or something like this. But make sure that you instruct the users, your users, as how this joke is going to work. Because when Dialogflow says knock knock, it has to listen to you. And as per the Dialogflow policies, it is important to instruct your users as how this is going to work. Your joke is going to work. Otherwise, you won't be able to deploy your joke on Google Home or personal assistants or other devices on Google. Now, one thing that you need to make sure of is not to click on this radio button. Otherwise, this intent will be the last intent of your conversation. Now let's test our intent. Before we do that, we have to make sure that we click on save first. The intent is saved. Now we have to wait for Dialogflow to start training our intent. Training is started, and training is completed. Now we can test. Let's do it now. Make me laugh. As you can see, the response is rendered. You can also try the microphone. I am bored. Tell me something funny. I am bored. Tell me something funny. As you can see, the response is also rendered again. Another way to test the intent is using Google Assistant. You can click on Google Assistant, and it's a simulator. If you're running this for the first time, it may take a few seconds. And let's just wait for it to show up. It should show us a page. All right. Terms of service, as usual, we will agree and continue. Okay. To start, we can click on Talk to My Test app or simply type it. Okay, I'm going to use this and press enter.
Sure, getting the test version of my test app.
Good day. What can I do for you today?
I'm going to use the microphone first. I am bored. Say something funny.
Sure, I know knock knock jokes, so when I say knock knock, you have to say who is it or who is there. Then I will say a name or phrase like Cash or Cow says, to which you have to reply Cash who or Cow says who. Are you ready for a knock knock joke?
You can also type another sample. Let's say, tell me a joke.
Okay, I know quite a few knock knock jokes. The way it works is that I would say knock knock, and in response you have to say who is there or who is it? Then I will say a name or phrase like Cash or Cow says, then you have to say Cash who or Cow says who. Are you ready for a knock knock joke?
All right. So the next step is to create two entities to say yes or no to this question. Are you ready for a knock knock joke? You have to create an entity for yes and another one for no. Now, before I start creating entities, let me briefly share with you what an entity is. Entities are words that are important to your intent, and you would need to extract them from the sentences generated by your users. You would normally extract these words to decide what to do and how to continue the rest of the conversation. Now, for more, you can refer to the description provided below by Dialogflow. It's a bit technical as usual, and the URL to this page is dialogflow.com/docs/entities. Okay, now that we know what an entity is, let's create one. Let's click on plus sign next to entities, and let's give the first one a name. Let's create the yes entity first. Yes entity, reference value is yes, and synonyms are yes, which is automatically added as I press enter, then yep, okay, sure, of course, let's do it, enter, okay, in case you're using the keyboard or your user prefers to use his keyboard. Okay, yeah, type differently, yay, and I love it. We can add a few more if you prefer to add a few more. Now let's click on save. We're done. Now let's create another entity. This time let's create the no entity. Clicking on plus sign again. Let me call it no entity. And value is no. Again, as I press tab or enter, it would automatically add it. Nope. Never. May. Enter now. Forget it. Let's not do it. I do not like it. It's not. I've already done that. Forget about it. And yes, I don't like it. Okay, I think that's it. I think we're good. Oh, maybe we can do I don't like it like this. How about that? Now we can save. Now we can create our intent. The first intent is the one that we want to use for when the user says yes. Let's call it my yes, tell me a joke. Let's ignore context and events, and let's go directly to training phrases. Now here, let's try some of the entities that we created. If I type yeah and enter, you can notice that yeah is automatically highlighted, and it is automatically added under the parameter name, yes underscore entity, and I can refer to this entity using @ yes underscore entity, and the result value will be yeah. So as explained in the entity section, these are entities are values that are automatically extracted from inputs. And also, as you can see, yay or yes entity is also added as a parameter here under action on parameters. Let me add a few more. Let's do it. Yep. I love it. And yes. Now, if you wonder what an action is, let me briefly explain with you what an action is. An action is simply a name you give to your intent. Every intent can only have one action and vice versa. If you have a fulfillment and need to access an intent, you can use its corresponding action to do so. For more, you can refer to the description provided below by Dialogflow, and the URL to this page is dialogflow.com/docs/intents/actions-parameters. And here is the explanation for parameters. Parameters are used to designate, highlight, or expect certain values and/or entities in user-generated input. For more, you can refer to the description provided below by Dialogflow, and the URL to this page is dialogflow.com/docs/intents/actions-parameters. Now we can move on to the responses section. Now here, the response that we want to render is pretty simple. Let's show knock, knock. Now let's save. And it's time to test. And if I type yes, I can see the value knock knock. I can also use the simulator to try this intent. So if I click on simulator, it would open a window, and as usual it would take a few seconds before it loads. Alright, I think it's almost ready. Yes, it is. Now let's try the microphone this time. Talk to my test app.
Alright, let's get the test version of my test app.
Hi, how are you doing?
I am bored. Say something funny.
Okay, I know quite a few knock-knock jokes. The way it works is that I would say knock-knock, and in response you have to say who is there, or who is it? Then I will say a name or phrase like Cash or Cow says, then you have to say Cash who, or Cow says who. Are you ready for a knock-knock joke?
Yes.
Knock-knock.
Alright. It is working as expected. And now we are ready to create our next intent. Let's click on the plus sign again on intents. And this one, we can call it do not crack a joke intent for when the user would say nay or would say no to the question raised earlier. Now, we can again skip context and events. We will cover them later. Let's add a few training examples here. Forget about it. Let's not do it. We've already covered why these entities are automatically highlighted. and add it to action parameters. No, nope, and no. All right. Now let's go to the response area and add a few samples. You can say, okay, let's have fun later. Bye. Sure. Please come back later. Goodbye. And now here we can turn this radio button on. Set this intent as end of conversation, because beyond this we don't want to do any further back and forth. Now we can save this. Intent is saved. Cool. Let's wait for the training. Agent training completed. Now let's test. Let's do a quick test here. Just simply say nope. Okay, you see the sample response. Sure. Please come back later. Goodbye. Or I can click on Google Assistant to use the simulator. Let's try that. This would open a new tab, and it may take a few seconds. And here we go. I'm going to use the microphone this time. Talk to my test app.
Okay, getting the test version of my test app.
Good day. What can I do for you today?
Make me laugh.
Sure, I know knock knock jokes, so when I say knock knock, you have to say who is it or who is there. Then I will say a name or phrase like Cash or Cow says, to which you have to reply Cash who or Cow says who. Are you ready for a knock knock joke?
No.
Sure, please come back later. Goodbye.
Alright, it is working as expected, and as you can see, the agent left the conversation. Okay, now with that, we are ready for the next step. Alright, let's click on intents to create a new one. Let's call this one who is their intent. And this time we're going to create an output context variable. I'm going to call it knocker name context. And let's see what a context variable is. Context represents the current state of a conversation using a set of variables and values. We can carry variables from a previous intent into the current state of the conversation using input context. Also, you can pass on values to future states and intents using output context. Now for more, we can review the description provided below, and the URL to get to this page is dialogflow.com/docs/contexts. Okay, now we can create a few training phrases. Let's say, who is there? Who is it? Who's knocking? Who is knocking again? Or who's there? All right. Now let's give a name to our action, because we are going to create an action. Let's call it knocker's name action. And here's the explanation for what an action is. An action is simply a name you give to your intent. Every intent can only have one action and vice versa. If you have a fulfillment and need to access an intent, you can use its corresponding action to do so. For more, you can refer to the description provided below by Dialogflow, and the URL to this page is dialogflow.com/docs/intents/actions-parameters. And now we can create a parameter here, knocker name underscore param, enter, and let's give it a value, Isabel. All right, and here's what a parameter is. Parameters are used to designate, highlight, or expect certain values and or entities in user-generated input. For more, you can refer to the description provided below by Dialogflow, and the URL to this page is dialogflow.com/docs/intents/actions-parameters. Okay, now we can move on to the response section. Here we would say $knocker underscore name underscore param. So we're going to use the parameter that we created up here. So the $sign you can refer to your parameter. And you may ask why we did that. So you're going to use this design for more knocker jokes. For one joke, you can simply type Isabel here, but since we're going to show you more, we're going to show you how you can add more knock jokes, we're going to use $knocker underscore name underscore param here. It's very simple. The parameter name is preceded with a $sign. Now, all we have to do is to save, and let's test. Let's type who is there, and the response is Isabel. The intent is who is their intent. Action is knocker's name, action, and parameter is knocker name param, the value is Isabel. Now let's test the simulator version. As usual, it may take a few seconds, and let's wait until it loads, and you're almost there. Okay, here we go. Now let's use the microphone again. Talk to my test app.
Sure, let's get the test version of my test app.
Good day. What can I do for you today?
Remember, you can always use keyboard as well, but just to show how it works, I'm using microphone. Make me laugh.
Okay, I know quite a few knock jokes. The way it works is that I would say knock, and in response you have to say who is there or who is it? Then I will say a name or phrase like Cash or Cow says, then you have to say Cash who or Cow says who? Are you ready for a knock joke?
Sure.
Knock.
Who is there?
Isabel.
Alright, so far so good. Okay, with that you're ready to add another entity. Let's go to entities. Let's create entity. I'm going to call this one knocking person entity, and automatically the name appears before I even type it. I've done this before, so that's why it shows it to me. And let's add, I press on save before adding a few samples. Now I'm going to create the first one, Isabel, as simple as Isabel. So here, as you can see, I wanted to show you that you may have there are different ways of creating entities. One is to add multiple synonyms, and in some cases you only want to have one synonym, like this one. The next one, let's try doctor. And here we can add one more, like dr, doctor, leaf, and alpaca, and again alpaca. So for this particular project, we're going to use only Isabel, but I wanted to add some more to show you that we can extend this project to cover more knock jokes, which I will show you in future videos. Now let's click on save. And now we are ready to create our next intent. Let's go to intents again. And let's create another entity. And this one is going to be called asking knocker who intends. Here we're going to add an input context variable and an output context variable. So let's call this one knocker name context from the previous intent. The same will be passed on using the same name. And the training phrase this time will be only one. We're going to use Isabel who. As you can see, Isabel is highlighted. Parameter name is added automatically. The entity is displayed. Result value is Isabel. Like before, action parameter, you can see the same thing is available here. You can see it under entity and value. And now here we can add a few responses. Now you have to pay attention here because I'm going to use the input context parameter and the value inside it. So inside that context variable. So I'm going to call this one, I'm going to use knocker name context. It is text, it is this case sensitive, so please be careful. Knocker name context, and the parameter from the previous context is, if you remember, was named knocker name param, right? Now we say working. I had to knock. Please bear with me as we're going to test this momentarily. Now let's try another one. And the same thing. Knocker name param. Not working. I had to knock. Now again, for this project right now, we can end the conversation after this back and forth. But for future project, we will keep it off because we want the user to be able to try different knock-knock jokes and try more knock-knock jokes. Okay, now let's see if we can test this here. Before we do that, we have to save. Intent is saved. Let's wait for the training to happen. Training started and training completed. Now let's try it. If I say Isabel who, Isabel not working, I had to knock. Okay, that is working. The joke is working, right? The bell is not working. Alright, now let's try it on the simulator and well, let's click on Google Assistant. Alright, we're ready. Let's test.
Alright, here's the test version of my comedian buddy.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm bored. Make me laugh.
Sure, I know knock-knock jokes, so when I say knock-knock, you have to say who is it or who is there. Then I will say a name or phrase like Cash or Cow says, to which you have to reply Cash who or Cow says who. Are you ready for a knock-knock joke?
Sure.
Knock-knock.
Who is there?
Isabel.
Isabel who?
Isabel working? I had to knock.
Alright, as you see, the joke is working. Alright, now we know how to create a simple knock-knock joke using Dialogflow. In the next video, I will show you how to deploy this project on Google. Please let me know what you think about this project and this video. Share your questions and thoughts. I will definitely get back to you. Thanks for watching and stay tuned.